going into the crack baby generation. Kids that were born in the early to mid-80s, really on crack. Because their parents were on crack when they had it. So like I said, these are things you just have to consider when it comes to why smart people do that. I'm not making an excuse. I'm saying why it happens. As far as they hook up on drugs, hook up on alcohol. Sometimes it's just, you got nothing better to do. You say, hey, let's go and do something stupid. You have one choice. That's the rest of your life. Now you can't get off this stuff. You can't stop drinking this stuff. You made the right decision. Probably on your own spirit, but then also those that were around you to say that that particular aspect was wrong. Yeah. That's a blessing. It's a blessing that you didn't get caught up in it. Yeah. Right? My dad was like,
also what you gotta understand too is that everybody has their own vice. You know what I'm saying? Everybody may have their own different addictions and stuff like that. So somebody may have an addiction of alcohol, somebody may have an addiction to crack, somebody may have an addiction, like me, to weed. I was straight up smoking weed all the time and stuff. Everybody has their own different vice and their own addiction and stuff. So when you look at somebody, I was smart enough to stay away from that. That's good, but what things that you have that you struggle with that somebody else may be smart enough to stay away from? You know what I'm saying? So each and everybody may have their own addiction and their own problem. It's all about how they're going to get free from that. Have everybody have a testimony, because just like he said, he brought up the physical aspect of it, people being on drugs and stuff like that, or babies being born in, but also understand too, whatever happens in the physical was first made in the spiritual. So sometimes a child may pick up something and don't know why he's in consumption. Don't know why he's doing that is because something spiritual has happened to him because of the parents or somebody else may brought that in. You know what I'm saying? So
basically, like me, my dad was a positive person. I try to be a positive person. Get negative people around you, get negative. You turn out to be negative.
And that's true. That's true itself. That's true itself in some cases. But in some cases, father could be on point, or mother could be on point, and the child could be off. You know what I'm saying? It all depends on that person's goal, that the Heavenly Father instills in them. It's like the Bible always says, you know, our heart and our mind, the way we see things and view things, is wicked. It's in the hurry to do something wicked, it's deceitful. You know, that's why we get caught up in things. But if we don't even know our heart, then we don't even understand us. You know? I'm gonna give it back to him.
Okay, let's to what? So now, we're talking about what person got you on?
Revelation 13 out of 10.
Right. Here, so take it back like you said, as far as you growing up a certain way. It's not an excuse for that type of behavior. I think just to be mindful of is why it happens, why people fall into those choices. So these are all, when you go back to it, it only goes back to us. I call it the 180 360. Explain what I mean. The 180 is this, right? We're doing our thing on the western coast of Africa. Our Native American brothers and sisters are doing their thing here in North and Central South America, right? So the 180 is what? So-called white man with helping the Africans and the Arabs. They come over, get Joel chapter 3. They come over and then work together to sell us into slavery here in the Americas, right? Not just in North America, but even Central and South America and the Caribbean, right? That's the 180. Now we point the finger at the so-called whites. How did they do this, right? These people were so heartless, they're so horrible, right? But now they're actually doing what they're supposed to do, because you read the Bible, they are the wicked. That's the purpose the Most High made them for. Not just against us, but against all nations. You look at anywhere they go, right? Anywhere they wage war and try to sit down and to do policy with, to get out their democracy, right? Or their way of life, they bring death with them. They bring, that's another list I put together. Anywhere these so-called whites go, they bring the six. I call them the six offenses of Esau. Esau is their name in the Bible. They bring rape, theft, murder, deception, oppression, profanity. I go through them again. Rape, theft, murder, deception, oppression, profanity.
What about
like clockwork? Whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Africa.
What about doctrine?
Whether it's what do you call it? That's where deception comes in. That's kind of going into another temptation. They bring, like I said, those things, whether they're in the Middle East, whether they're in parts of Asia, the Near East, the Far East, anywhere they go, they bring their lifestyle, culture, mentality. But you go into the history as the Greeks and Romans, they're vile people. And they're doing all the stuff that they did before, back in the Greek and Roman times, they're bringing it back today. The Olympics, being out there nude, same-sex, marriages, and all that. Or dealing with animals, right? But these are all things that they're about, that they do in their own mind, so they feel better if they can what? Convince everybody else to live and think the same exact way. You see? So they can feel more comfortable with themselves. That's why you'll see them pushing guys like Tyler Perry, or pushing guys that cross-dress or that dress up like women. They'll give them all types of awards and accolades. Right. Because they're trying to push their lifestyle, culture, mentality on us. Say, look, he's got money, he's got fame, he's cool, do what he does, and you'll get pushed up in the forefront just like them. You see? But this goes back to why we had to undergo this. Because by us doing that, we go against the Heavenly Father. You see? So that's worth the 180 point. Now I just jumped to the 360 in the last comment I made. So the 180 is, the so-called whites, they did this to us, right? And now they got us, trying to get what they have and be like them, bleaching our skin, getting nose jobs, putting on fake hair, dyeing our hair, right? Right. So we got our sins to bear, trying to be like the oppressor, the men and the women, different ways. But now the 360 comes back where it comes back on us. Because the only reason why they were able to do this, the only reason why this did happen, I read it earlier. If we didn't keep the laws, statutes, and commandments, that curse would never come upon us. In Deuteronomy 28:1, let's read that. This is what was supposed to happen if we as a nation didn't break God's laws. We're about to read it now. This wouldn't have happened. The Most High wrote that in there to say, look, here's the agreement. If you do this, I'm going to bless you, meaning follow my commandments. But if you break what I told you to do, now I'm going to bring these curses with you. You see, this is one of the main curses we point to show that this has to be our people. See that? Because no other people went into slavery and if they documented and known when it comes to this transatlantic slave trade. Everybody talks about this, east to west, north to south. But they want to minimize it or put it out in the forefront. Everybody knows about this history. It's big. But it was Bible prophecy. It was prophesied before. The Most High tells us why this happened to a certain group of people. To where now we can stop being the victim and realize why we've been victimized and then take back our authority. But it takes time because we got to get. That's going to be a lot of people. Well, actually, it's going to be a few. It's going to be a lot depending on relative, but compared to the people that are in the earth as a whole, it's going to be a few people. It's not going to be a lot. You ever heard Christ say, many are called, few are chosen? We'll read that after we read this. Deuteronomy 28:1.
Deuteronomy 21. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I commanded thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
The Most High is going to set us on high above all nations of the earth. Now, we ain't seen them times in a minute, right? At least in our generation. We're going to go back to Western Africa and certain colonies we had there, like the Gold Coast and whatnot, but in recent history, it's hard to really find that these last couple centuries, right? But now, this is the blessing. We kept the law. So you read about like David and Solomon. They got movies where they make them into so-called white men, but you go into it, they were black, so-called black men like you and I. Solomon had dark skin like you. So did David, so did Christ. You were men of color, right? And we should take pride in that righteousness. We come from such great royal men, right? That other nations sought counsel for and sought advice for as far as how to manage their country, instead of just looking for us to entertain them. That's how the nations look at us for the most part. We're just entertainment. They come. Hands around, right? Yeah. Y'all come up. Y'all come up. Real quick. What do you say those the four things are that they tell us to do? To sing, to dance, what do you say?
Sing,
dance, sing, and play.
I thought dance, sing, and play. Okay, that's it right there. So as long as you're doing that, Negro, you're cool with us.
They try to kill Barack Obama. People try to run president.
That's kind of another discussion.
They try to kill him.
You got Joel, right? Chapter 3.
Yeah.
Joel chapter 3, right? Let's start from verse 3.
Yeah.
You got it from there.
And they,
So now, what I want to do, I'm having a brother read this section here because what I want to address is the difference between what we call Africans versus what we call African Americans. Because we're descendants of slaves from the western coast of Africa, yes. But now, native Africans, been there, lived there for quite some time, they're different people than our people. What the read's going to go into that. Well, we go into the history about the transatlantic slave trade. What you had was what? You had the native Africans, because they knew the blacks on the western coast weren't them. That's why when you talk to Africans, they never call themselves Africans. They call themselves from whatever country they come from. They say, I'm from Zimbabwe, I'm from Mozambique, I'm from Kenya, I'm from Sudan, I'm from wherever, right? They'll say whatever country they're from specifically, right? They won't call themselves African. They only do that anytime they meet up with the EU or something. They're trying to do something with the United Nations. They go by the African name, right? But now, anytime you bring up West Africa, check out how a native African gets like excited. They go, oh, I'm not West African. I'm not West African. They always distance themselves from that. Like, you got any friends that are Ethiopian? Or any friends that you might know that from whatever country, especially from East Africa?
School. I don't really talk to nobody like from another country.
You don't come across it all?
Not often.
You might know somebody in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
But you listen to them talk, they'll always distance themselves from West Africans because they know that's where we came from, and that's where a lot of our people still are at. They'll always distance themselves from West Africa. So they themselves are showing, by doing that they know that we're not the same as them. They're not the same people as us. They won't come out right and say it because why? They want to be nice to you. So you come in their store, buy their little knockoff purse, come and bring your daughter here, so you can braid that hair real tight. Come in and get the chicken fried rice, right? Pork fried rice, right? For them. All the nations are in our neighborhood with the store open. We just get our check every Friday. Pork fried rice, right? Knockoff purse, I'll get it for my mom. Making them rich. We can pour in the process. Right? You might have a brother with a bag with the incense in it, right? He's got no storefront. He's got the bag walking around, but as far as in the storefronts, he sees other nations there, right? Getting our hard-earned dollar. But we give it over to them because we're destroyed for lack of knowledge, not knowing who we are, right? I'm not saying a lot. Let's get back on task. So, like I was saying, we need to make a differentiation between native Africans versus the blacks that were brought over here on slavery. Because those who were brought over here on slavery, brought with slaves, the western coast mainly, right? They were actually Hebrews, Hebrew Israelites. Because Hebrew Israelites, you read the Bible, were a dark-skinned people. That's who we are, chosen of God. Right. But history will call them African. Or in some cases in North Africa, referred to as Phoenician. You go back to certain history. Now, let's read this in Joel chapter 3. To show that these native Africans, they don't have any dealing with us. They hate us, right? And they want to make a profit off of us. Just like, like this guy right here, more than likely, he's probably a Hamite. Just looking at his features, he looks like he's a Cushite. But you go into the Bible, Cush, they're not the same people. And they have famous people.
You can
too. They got
always
like Nimrod, they got their emperors and all that, but they're not the chosen of God.
Nelson Mandela made that clear. Remember, he gave $10 million. The black people raised $10 million for Nelson Mandela, right? Now, when they asked Nelson Mandela what he going to do for the people over here, the black people over here, he said, I'm taking this to my people. They have their leaders, but I'm taking this to my people. So he
One of the kings. Who knows?
He gets drunk.
What's that?
Maybe he gets drunk right now.
Yeah, but what he said was kind of Joel chapter 3 and verse 2. Sure, we don't have deals with them like that. We're not the same people.
Joel chapter 3 verse 3.
Here you go, brother man.
And they have cast lots
Hail,
on my people.
Hail Selassie, he's not our people, man. He's not our people. But Jesus Christ is, man. People always giving him love. As soon as I said he's not our people, you saw that? He said, disrespect. Jah Rastafari. You disrespect that. But I got to because it's not the truth. But now, Joel chapter 3 and verse 3.
Joel 3:3. And they have cast lots for my people.
So they cast lots for my people like gambling, right? That's what the auction block was. One, I got 2, 2, I got 10, 10, I got 10, 10, I got 20, 20, I got 20, 20, I got 30, I got 30, once, no, twice. Sold to the family down in North Carolina, right? Selling off our ancestors, whatever you want to. It gets worse, check it out. They cast lots for my people, read.
And have given a boy for a harlot.
Giving a boy for an harlot. Turn up a little boy, right, to a prostitute. Sodomize a little boy for pleasure. Right? Yeah. That's still going on. It says, turn a boy into a prostitute, read.
And sold a girl for wine.
Sold a girl for wine.
That they might drink.
They might drink. So selling a girl, right? A living soul. Selling her for a commodity, right? That's what the slave trade was. What? It was sold for was molasses, mustard gun, right? They go into the certain commodities that they got. As far as who got what out of the triangle trade. You go into the history. You know.
Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre of Zidon?
So it says, what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, right? The Tyre and Zidon, you go into it, in ancient maps, they're what we call Africans today. Native Africans, the region where they live, the Zidonians, and those of Tyre, or Hamites, you go into their lineage. So he's saying, what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, read?
And all the coast of Palestine.
All the coast of Palestine. It's an interesting prophecy because Palestine, where's Palestine?
Egypt, right?
Not Egypt, but it's close, like India. Not India. It's in that same Gulf, you're close. Not Egypt, but what's adjacent to Egypt? If you're in Egypt, you go like this, what's right there? Africa. Leaving Africa. Leaving Africa, as they call it. You go up a little bit, what's right there? It's the number one topic, that's why we're out here. Talk about America. So, Israel. Right? It's right there. You go up to Egypt. You can literally walk on a coastline. Walk Egypt desert. Walk into the land of Israel. They're joined on the map. Right? So, Israel. So in Israel you have Palestine, right? So now in today's times, who's in Palestine?
Just like, not black people.
Not right. It's not our people. Who's there? Mostly. Some of our people live there. Well, you have so-called Jews that are throughout the land of Israel, but now who mainly lives in Palestine?
White people.
They live on the surrounding area. You hear about the news, you hear about the Israelis and the Palestinians, right? I know you may not be a poli-sci major, but just generally speaking. You hear about the Israelis and the Palestinians going back and forth. Who are the Israelis? What nation are they? Right. Now, who are the Palestinians? What nation are they?
Not the black people. White people.
You were talking to him.
I'm not sure.
They're the so-called Arabs. You get Arabs here. You look at Palestinians. They talk about like Hamas.
Around there.
Some are from there. Some are from North Africa. They come from different regions in that Middle Eastern area, right? But those are the Palestinians, or those are the Arabs, right? So when it says, "What have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, all the coast of Palestine?" What it's going into is, what dealings do you have with me, the Lord talking about himself, but mainly through his people? What have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, all the coast of Palestine? Because as we're going to read on, what this is going into is a future prophecy that Joel is going into about what these nations would do against our people. Let's read on and find out.
Will you render me a recompense?
Will you render me a recompense? What's a recompense? It means a payback. Will you render unto me a recompense? Or pay me back for something you owe? But now check out what he said in response.
Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head.
So
I'm going to pay you back.
Yeah, see, so I'm going to bring your payback right back to you. Because remember, as we read earlier, Revelations 13 and 9 and 10, he he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword.
White people should be payback for what they've done to us.
Not only that, but now what we're dealing with is Tyre and Zidon and the coast of Palestine. The so-called Africans and the so-called Arabs. Let's read on because it's going to tell us. Read on, brother.
Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly, pleasant things.
So you taking my silver and gold and taking into your temples my good, pleasant things. It's kind of a double language. It's poetic. It's going into the riches that we had. It's talking about us. It's also talking about us. We look at it in the metaphorical sense. Because we are like gold. We're like fine gold as far as the Most High is concerned. We're most precious to him. Right? The apple of his eye, all that. We don't.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem.
The children of Judah and Jerusalem, talking about our people. What's going to happen?
Have you sold unto the Grecians?
Have you sold unto the Grecians? Check this out. Joel lived years ago, but he said, talking to the Tyre and Zidon people, Hamites, so-called Africans, and talking to the Palestinians, so-called Arabs, today, you have sold them to the Grecians. Today they're called Americans, British, French. They're the same nation of people. The Bible
Speak a different language.
They're the same people. Doesn't matter. You may have started speaking one language. You may have learned languages across, along the way, but you still come from a certain lineage as far as your nation. So it says, you sold them to the Grecians. You go into the families of the Greeks, right? Like Alexander and his 4 generals and all that. They're what we call so-called white people. The Bible calls them Edomites, or Esau. So he's saying, you Africans and Arabs, you sold these, my people, the children of Judah and Jerusalem, to the so-called whites. But it says Grecian, because they were the Greeks. You understand? That was the beginning of their rulership when they came into power on the earth. They were around before, but that's when they came into prominence from the time of the Greeks. He had sold them to the Grecians.
That you might remove them far from their border.
You might remove them far from their border. See, that goes back to the whole, thou shalt see it no more again. We will be far removed from our border because we're in America now. Israel's way, right? That you might remove them far from their border. We had already come to the western coast of Africa after we left in 70 AD. We left Jerusalem, our people in hordes in 70 AD. A big diaspora. Then we were taken again after we settled on the western coast of Africa just a couple hundred years ago and then brought to the Americas and the Caribbean. See that? So that's what this prophecy is dealing with. The thing that makes it kind of tricky is that you got different names. When you can match the names to the nation, it just becomes that much clearer because it's just history. In this case, more recent history. So a lot of it, like I said, is knowing the names of people back then and what they're called now, and understanding context. And it's pretty much, along with that, is understanding history as far as certain eras, you know what I mean? But that's what this is talking about. Is there any more there? It just says remove them far from their border. Comes again. Here you go, young man. That's for all three, yo, and take these two. You go into it, we're the real Jews, we're Hebrews. That's our nationality, young man. Give this purple one to your dad. Oh, wait a minute, not this one. Y'all keep these. Oh no! Take these two. Make sure you share these with your fathers and mothers.
You let him give the pink one to his mom.
Oh, my bad. Give these to your mother. These go to your mom. These are for the ladies.
recompense upon your own head.
You return your recompense upon your own head. Right? So let me make sure I clear it up. We are all called, all of us, to know this truth. But as far as being chosen, time will have to tell whether or not we're chosen or not. Because I could go right back in the world and go back to, chasing women, smoking drugs, and doing whatever it was I was doing before. I woke up to this knowledge and really acknowledge myself as an angel on earth. I'm an angel in the flesh. That's how I'm supposed to look at myself. I'm a messenger from the Lord of hosts. I'm supposed to act a certain way, carry myself a certain way. But I look at the men, the state of my people. Their examples that they look to are horrible. That's why they're horrible. They haven't had a righteous model. I'm not talking about a nice model, right? Or what society calls good. I'm talking about what the Most High said is good. And same thing for the sisters. They haven't had a righteous role model or role models they can look to as far as guides. When they read the Bible, they think they're reading about white women, so-called white women. So they can't really look to them like that and get that same feeling like, this is me in the Word. And connect with the Word in the Word. You see? So these are all things that we need to do as men and women of the nation of Israel. So we're on the next one.
And I will sow your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord has spoken it.
Right, so we're going to sell their children to the Sabians. So we're going to we're going to get them, have them in captive as slaves, the same way they had us in captive as slaves. But now we're going to deal with them according to judgment. We're not going to just go and beat them up and score the hell of them, right? Now they're going to be judged for what they did to us, right? In one nation, Esau, they're going to be completely wiped off the map because all the wickedness they've done. In the other nations, we're going to beat them down in size. We're going to teach them righteousness. We're just going to teach them about the Sabbath, teach them about what to eat, what not to eat. Get them off them false gods. A lot of them into these false gods, get the little necklace they carry.
I was told all this stuff in elementary. I went to Kevin school for like 12 years. I didn't see this in the books. I didn't see this in the textbooks. I thought this. I didn't learn all that.
Because this is going here. This is dealing with your subconscious mind. Get us second lesson on these stuff.
Man, too, I didn't see none of that.
But it's here in the Word. You're right, I didn't see it either. When I started reading it, I kind of had to recreate the images in my head, the mental pictures in my head. But what I thought was God and Christ. What I thought was David and Solomon. What I thought was Esther and Judah. And the other figures that are in the Bible. And say, wow, these are my people. This is my story. Because as a kid, I went to Christian school for 2 years. Right? I went to a Christian school for 2 years and I went public the rest of the way. But they had us read these books where we read the story of Noah, read the story about Adam and all that. But the pictures are so-called white people. I'm like, where am I at? To where I did better in my math. Because in math, I really didn't like reading English that much. Kind of got into that a little later, but I was more of a math type kid.
I was the same way.
But I didn't like the Bible. I did bad in the Bible class. I got like C's.
I can't remember all of it, but we learned about like Naomi, like prophets. Like we learned about like it was really old stuff. It was like the religion class was a little boring because I'm not a Catholic. I went to like a 7-day minister. But we learned about like prophets. Like I remember one was called Naomi, one was called Sandy, something like that. We learned about a lot of stuff. I think it was Juan Diego or something like that. Juan Diego.
It's like a missionary or something.
Or like something called the three wise men or something like that. Three wise men.
Time of Christ.
I think it was a long time ago, but it was something called the three wise men. And book report on that.
It's funny because a lot of that's theology. The Bible has been going through those men words. So they had some kind of knowledge to know that Christ was born at that time. They create this whole thing in theology about those three wise men. It's kind of ridiculous.
I was told that Jesus was white, fair-skinned man, long hair and a beard. I wasn't, taught none of that.
Right, we read the scriptures, like we even posted right there, let you know. But check this out, because the Bible even tells you that the so-called whites do this. With Christ, with the Most High, with the angels, and make them look like them. So that the subconscious of our mind will think God is white. Jesus, the angels, everybody is white. And if I look more like them, I'll be accepted.
You never will be accepted by them.
That's the truth. But we think that we will be if we sell out, if we do this, if we do that, if we bleach our skin, if we sell our own people. We feel like I said, we'll get bigger crumbs from the master's table.
They cannot have open to be accepted by yourself.
Right. It's like the hell with him and his standard. We got our own standard. right? He's in power now, so we give him props as far as the Most High put him in power. But now we need to deal with each other, put up our own nation, come back to our own standard. We're supposed to be an example unto them, not the other way around. But now read that.
2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means.
Don't let any man deceive you by any means. Exactly.
For that day shall not come.
That day shall not come. That's what was going on during the times of Thessalonica. Thessalonica was that people thought that the Christ was going to make a second coming right away. In that time, it was like, first century AD, around that time, like maybe 40 or 50 or maybe 60 AD, right, around that time. They thought that Christ was going to make a second coming just like that. And he told his disciples, no, I got to go ready for the time. Right. A lot longer than you think. That's why he said it should be a falling away from us, because what happened was, the true Christians back then that taught to believe on Christ while still keeping the law. But over time, religion and Christianity changed. Constantine came in, added some stuff in there, right? Some of it was our people in ignorance, some of it was other nations, Esau. But over time, the religion began to take on the old gods of Rome, the old gods of Greece, the old gods of Egypt and Babylon, etc. To where now in America, we say one nation under God, but there's a pyramid right here in Philadelphia, right? You got 3 obelisks, or these 3 skyscrapers supposed to be like the pyramids in Giza in Egypt. You got an Egyptian symbol in DC. They call it the monument. They're starting to do reconstruction on it this month. You got one in London. You got one in the Vatican. Christian. It's supposed to be a Christian establishment. Why do you have an Egyptian obelisk in St. Peter's Square? These guys telling them so. If I don't read and make sense of it, wait a minute. These guys can't be dealing with Christ. All they do is pushing the old religions of all the empires that came against God's people.
That's exactly why.
Why would we praise these people in our churches, right?